Thank you for having me, and thank you everyone for coming tonight. I'm gonna show this in Teams, not live, because I like control. I'm a control freak. But thanks, Greg, for the wonderful intro, and Brent and Ed for having me here, and all of you. Brent and I worked together a long time ago. I did the math, Brent. I'm not going to say the number, but it was a long time ago. And reconnected, and that's why I'm able to be here today. So thanks for having me. I used to live in Portland. I'm also a transplant. I lived in Portland for 10 years. It's the only place my wife and I lived that we chose, that work didn't dictate. All my daughters were born there, including Liz, here you see on the screen, making fun of Charles Darwin, knowing that the speed of evolution is slow enough that he can never seek revenge on her. Um, so I'm part of the team called PowerCat, Customer Advisory Team. We are part of the Power Platform Engineering team, the team that actually builds Power Platform. So if you want to go deploy an app to 100,000 people or push the limits of AI, we're the ones that help you do that. We also tell stories. So anyone you've seen standing next to Charles or Ryan talking about the platform, they're one of our customers. And we build tools like the CoE Starter Kit and the Creator Kit, and hopefully other things that you've seen or used. Those all come from our team. So what I'm going to do today is a little bit of a risk. My talk is non-technical. I come from engineering. I'm going to give a non-technical talk. In contrast to, I think, a lot of the other speakers and what Shane is probably going to do next month, but it's for a very specific reason. I'm going to offer up some resources and programs for the community. Um, but really, I wanted to talk about what I think is the harder part of adopting AI and what we're seeing from a lot of our customers, which is the human side of that. We have all had a shift in where we work, right? The pandemic drove that. And now we're really in the midst, even if we can't tell, we're in the midst of a shift of how we work. And the shift is so much more than technology. It involves new skills and building trust with AI so that we can succeed. And our job, all of our job here as technology leaders, is to make sure everyone succeeds along with us on this journey. So that is our coworkers, but even our parents or our children, like my sassy youngest daughter here. Here's another one of my girls. This is Rebecca. In this picture, she is earning a PhD. That activity is earning her a PhD. Pretty smart, right? What she is
Wow,
doing,
that's awesome.
yeah, right. Yeah, she's got it going on. Uh, what she is doing is she's studying lake sediment and then measuring what she finds and modeling it in a software model to predict future climate change, right? She's literally going to change the world. And so
Wow,
to do
thank you.
this, she had to teach herself how to code. She's got a degree in geology, never done any coding. So to use a software model other people built, she had to teach herself to use it to code. She had to teach herself Python and Fortran. My 24-year-old daughter had to teach herself Fortran, the language that put people on the moon. Right? So that's kind of some of the setting for what I want to talk about today, right? The inertia of the past is strong. And we're on the cusp of where you and your organization can seize this moment. New ways to create AI, new ways to create apps, new ways to use AI. And the goal is so that you can break the inertia of that past that exists in all of our organizations, right? So that you can also change the world. And if you think about it, like everyone here from Microsoft, or at least from Power Platform team for the last 5, 6 years, you've heard us talk about the future of low code apps. But to be honest, for being in the midst of that, guiding large organizations to embrace and adopt and thrive with low code, it has sometimes been tough. And all of these organizations already knew how to build apps. Most of those problems weren't technical. I worked with the vice president of development for a large retail organization whose name you would know, and I'm not going to share for that very reason. He spent millions on Power Platform, and I asked him, how are you going to make sure your developers come along on this journey? And his answer was, I've made my decision. They just need to get on board, right? Not an inspiring change story. And his results reflected that. And so now, as hard as that was for every organization that already knew how to build app to transition to low code, now we're in the age of AI and Copilot Studio. And so breaking the inertia in all of our orgs to adopt AI and thrive with it and trust it before our competitors do, it's a much harder problem. But it's also where all of the opportunity lies. And so that's really the gist of this talk. It's a talk about that challenge, offer some help, but also explain why I believe that succeeding in this will not just help our businesses, but it makes us better business people. It makes us better managers, better workers. And overall, it makes us more human. Now, you might be thinking, all right, when I think about AI, I don't really think about more human, right? I think about more, 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 do more with less, do more with more. And that honestly, all of that leads to some of the fear that's so common with AI, right? We've heard it's all coming for our jobs. If you look back at previous industrial revolutions, they affected routine and dangerous work, like the guy with the shovel on the left. It didn't matter how fast he was with that shovel, he was not faster than the steam shovel. And so that's the fear that we hear from our teams about AI. Is AI going to take my job? And we know that in previous technological revolutions, that has happened, right? That is a source of this inertia. Like this quote here, right? I was heartbroken when I lost my job, but it was so nice there. Our teams around us, those people that are back at the office, have fear of being replaced, or even a change in how they're recognized or their established expertise, right? This is a real quote from someone that lost their job due to a technology transition. This person was a telephone operator. Up through the 1950s, humans, mostly young women, would connect phone calls. You'd say who you wanted to talk to, and they would patch a cable from one side to the other, and pretty soon you'd be talking to that, right? You wouldn't dial a number, you would actually communicate with this human in the middle. And then came automatic telephone switching. And this is commonly used as kind of a parallel to what we're going through with AI today, right? This switch from manual telephone switching to automatic telephone switching. Now, a brief side quest. While I was researching this, I found out that the person that invented automatic telephone switching, the reason he did this, he was an undertaker. He owned a funeral home, and he was trying to divert the calls of grieving families from his competitor's funeral home to his own. So while we're using this as a comparison for, our transition to AI right now, there's an AI ethics parallel in here that we're not really going to touch, but it's interesting. But also when, this is a common parallel for the transition we're going through now, but what you usually don't hear when people use this? How is the world braced for this technological change, right? This technology change. The move from picking up one of those two-piece phones with the earpiece and saying who you wanted to call to actually dialing a telephone number. Technology transitions require skills and readiness, and often more than we expect, right? It's hard to remember, but there was once a time when the world had to be trained on how to dial a telephone.
Suppose you've got a number you want to call. You get the number from your new directory. Let's say the number is 4567. Then pick up your telephone and listen for the dial tone. Third, dial each number carefully, making sure you bring the dial all the way around to the finger stop each time. Then let go. Don't try to hurry it back. I'm sure if you follow these simple rules, you'll find your new dial telephones easy to operate, convenient to use, and quick in service. Thank you.
And that is part of like a 20-minute film with a whole plot arc and all. It's fascinating. It's great. Like there's a grandpa and a daughter and like this whole parallel to probably like TikTok and all that right now. But I can't help but thinking these people in the 50s seeing dial telephones for the first time, watching this woman and thinking, where in the heck in my house is I going to put this giant telephone, right? Look at it, the thing's huge. But the reason I bring this up is, just like the dial telephone, 75 years ago, the world needs to be trained on how to use AI. And it's not playing around with ChatGPT. That is not the same as AI readiness. And our employees, our teams weren't hired for this skill. That's why jobs like this can just offer crazy amounts of money for an AI whisperer. Those people aren't in the job market. And so for us right now in this world, we need to find and nurture aptitude. And for those employees that are thriving with AI, who would let them go, right? Those are our change agents. That's how we break the inertia of the past. And so we have helped our customers make those people. And here's kind of the path we see them take, right? One, involvement of an executive sponsor. An executive sponsor are critical for any kind of change. And then ending with an app challenge or hackathon, something real that applies the skills that has value for the business. And then between there, a defined curriculum. And then for the exec sponsor, regular progress reports, right? You want your executive to make commitments to how many people are going to graduate and make sure that they're keeping them on track, right? That can drive throughput through your training. But it's more than just training. Learners need support, right? They need support from people. And so that community foundation is important. And the idea is you run this over and over again. And as more people go through, they become part of the community. And that's how you break inertia, by training up more and more people, having them support the next generation of learning, and then demonstrating it with real applications. And this is actually the path that we use in our Power Up program. A program designed for people learning Power Platform and career switchers that anybody can sign up with, and tens of thousands of people have gone through it. We manage the curriculum and the learning environment and the tenant. You can learn hands-on with expert support, and at the end you get a Credly badge so you can go brag on LinkedIn, and a voucher to go take an exam and get certified. All these links, I'll have all my links at the end, but you can, of course, write this one down. And then also, if you're looking for a training curriculum for your company, we're actually piloting Power Up for Enterprise now, where you can take this and deploy it in your company as your own training curriculum. And I'll have a link for that at the end, too. But while we're talking about training, it's important to think about, like, training for AI is not just the technology, right? As I mentioned, AI raises human problems. How do you deploy AI safely and in a trusted way? Take this, for example, right? It's a picture of a fork. A friend of mine gave this fork to his 9-year-old son, asked him, "What is this?" Do you know what his 9-year-old son said? He said, "It's a fork." The kid's 9, right? The kid knows it's a fork. But then he said to his son, "Okay, but this only has 3 prongs. So what is this?" And his son thought about it and he goes, "Oh, that's a freak." Right? He thought about it and he took everything he knew from 9 years and he tried his best to answer the question, but he hallucinated the answer. AI hallucinates just like his 9-year-old son does. Right? And even the current models will hallucinate. ChatGPT 4.0. How many R's are in the word strawberry? 2? Right? Not by my count, right? Now, Copilot, of course, right? Proud to say, gets it right with 3 R's. But it also shows a lot of the underpinnings that Microsoft puts in with responsible AI and hallucination checks and all that to protect, right? To make it safer for you to use and build on top of. Besides hallucinations, there's bias, right? This statement here, doctors are male, nurses are female. No one on this call would believe that, right? No one's going to say that's true. But large language models are trained on historical data with stereotypes. Researchers have found that GPT models use he for doctors and she for nurses. And so if you're not careful, that can reinforce unequal treatment on the job, in recruitment, and healthcare. Right? So it's another thing to monitor and test for and be careful of. Another one is transparency. Right? Like only one of these 4 images of fruit are real. Anybody know which one it is? Are you sure? Right? None of these are labeled or saying which one is AI generated. Transparency involves letting your users know when content's AI generated. Give them clarity on how decisions are made when AI is used. It's not the bottom left. But that's not what's really critical with these. Yeah, sorry, Greg. It doesn't really matter if it's fake fruit. But what if it's an MRI of a loved one? Does that change how you feel about transparency and how AI was used to generate or to analyze it? And so at Microsoft, we have our 6 AI principles we call our responsible AI principles. Fairness, reliability and safety, privacy and security, inclusiveness, transparency, and accountability. Right? We've developed and maintained these, and we apply them for everything we deploy, but they also provide a framework for your own use of AI in your organization to make sure that you can do it to build things you can trust. And we've got a kit, a template that you can use to then take each one of your projects and apply these principles as well, or impact assessment guide. These links will be at the end as well, but it gives you a worksheet so you can kind of consider, okay, for what we're building, what do we need to be considerate of based upon these principles? And so we do all this so that we can all trust AI to automate meaningful things in our organizations using sensitive data and save work. I mean, in reality, some of the meaningful things you build with AI may not seem that meaningful. Time off requests, scheduling required training and expense reports, right? We can't all be astronauts. I mean, but would it even be different, right? Buzz Aldrin had to file an expense report for traveling to the moon and back. So part of what we're trying to do here is lift out those meaningful and tedious tasks and remove them from our employees. Right? There's tremendous opportunity here. And there's also a real cost for all of our teams and all of our organizations on that tedious work. Right? Everybody here is either a manager, has a manager. Reports recently after the pandemic show that half of managers are burned out. Most employees have been ghosted by a manager. And those employees say they're overworked, stressed, less productive. And so I get one of the questions I'm posing is, what if all of our teams had that time back? Our organizations had more capacity to lead and to affect the other humans we work with, to enable human connection and to be creative and empathetic. That will affect our organization's performance, our retention of employees, our productivity, our competitiveness. So we have to ask ourselves, like, why does this happen? Why would a manager, a people manager, not show up for their people? Why would they just flat out ghost an employee? There was an experiment at Princeton where they told the subjects, they had two sets of subjects. They told them, you are going to give a talk. You're going to give a presentation like this. Half of them were told, the audience is waiting. You are late. And the other half was told, you got plenty of time. Go grab a coffee, go over there, check out the thing before the audience shows up. All of them, on their journey to where they were going to present, they ran into an actor playing a person in distress, really in distress, like someone that really needed help. So the question was, how many of these people stopped to help this person that needed help? For the half that were told you are late, only 10% of them helped this person in need. For the half that said you had plenty of time, 2/3 of them did. Now here's the twist. The subjects, they were seminary students, future ministers. And the subject of their talk was the Good Samaritan, right? Like, if these folks could walk past a person in need, the rest of us, when we're overwhelmed with urgency, we have no chance. So applying that to us in the workplace, right? Our managers, our coworkers. Can you imagine what you would do differently if you were less overwhelmed? And if you had the time to focus on people and drive that human connection? Or maybe we've been wrong this whole time about what work is. Right? Maybe it's not inbox zero and responding to every team's message right away and all those productivity related tasks. What if it's really about doing the uniquely human things on the left? The things that AI can't do, to coach and connect and invent. Maybe that's the real opportunity of adopting AI right now. And I'll tell you what, like building that connection and that humanness, it's not a frivolous task. There's actually real business opportunity in that connection. Think about this, right? Like, what is this? To most of us, it's a yellow square, but I bet to also we see see a Post-it note in there, right? The Post-it note, you may know, was a result of an accident. Person that was trying to invent a super strong glue, and he failed, right? He did super weak glues, sat on a shelf. Through meetings and talking, he met someone else at 3M, and they talked about this weak glue and what a failure it was. But the second guy, he was in a choir, and his bookmark kept falling out. He's like, oh, maybe we can use this weak glue and we'll create a sticky bookmark and put it in my book. So they met over lunch again and again, kind of brainstorming how this would work, and they prototyped a new bookmark and they gave it to their teammates. And they found they weren't using them for a bookmark. They were sticking them up for notes. 50 billion Post-it notes later, we don't even think twice about it. Right? Real value in leaving space for that human connection, invention, creativity. Right? That's the opportunity for AI to free up the time so that we can do that. So here on this forefront of AI, I wanted to finish off the second half with, how do we envision all the ways AI can free us to be more human and to find that opportunity? And, right now we're at a moment where a lot of this is like predicting the future, right? And so what if we went back 40 years, say 1987, and saw what people thought life might be like today?
Greetings, 20th century people. I'm wearing part of the gear of the future. Well, it may look like today's, but it's not what it seems. The suit is chemically treated to make it thermosensitive. It absorbs heat when you're hot, thus cooling you down, and releases it again when you're cold, so you maintain a constant temperature. A tiny biosensor under my tongue analyzes chemical changes in my saliva and radios any changes that I ought to know about to my tie, which changes colour, so I can intercept most illnesses before they become a problem. And I carry my office round with me as well. Now, this isn't just a watch or just a TV phone. It's also satellite connected, so I can receive information, any information I want, from any computer I have access to around the world. And I carry a printer for that information in my briefcase, so that when I get a message, it all prints out like that. But oh, what else have I got in here? How about this for a bit of future entertainment? This is my 3D TV, and I can shut out the world for the brief moments that I'm still stuck on mass public transport systems.
I mean, honestly, they don't do too bad, although I love that the printer is still a thing in their vision of the future. So we have worked, part of what we've done at PowerCat is actually doing a series of workshops to help our customers figure out what their future with AI looks like. And we do that in a one-day format where we help them build their low-code and AI vision, where they're going to focus, how they're going to measure success, and an action plan across 2 years. We do that in an interactive format. We've got some cards and tools. We have breakout groups. Like, this is a healthcare company. There's a medical doctor around the table. We've had investment bankers and all that, trying to get a broad group of voices. And I wanted to bring some of the findings from this because we've done this dozens of times, so we know what common low-code and AI visions look like. And we can almost provide it as a kit to you. Right? So what we typically see when an organization is coming up with their vision for how they're going to use this, it has these three pieces. What are we doing? How will we do it? And why it was important. And so I thought I'd show you some of our findings. We're going to publish this on learn.microsoft.com. We're in the process of it, but I thought I'd give you a peek at what we're working on. And so the first thing is, what are we doing? These are what most people say, what most of these companies say, these large companies say. What are we doing? Why are we doing this in the first place, right? We're going to power and innovate, digitally transform, continuously improve, add efficiency, increase productivity, and accelerate value. And then how will we do it, right? Secure low-code solutions, leveraging AI and automation, enabling empowered teams, implementing robust governance, and ensuring data cleanliness and security. They're all flavors of the same thing, but you could tell where a company is coming from by the angle they choose on this. And then why is it important to drive business value, productivity, foster a culture of innovation, improve processes, and achieve strategic goals? So these come together to form your vision by just connecting them with what are we doing, by how will we do it, to why is it important. And this forms real visions that we've seen our large customers deploy across their organizations for AI and low code. So what are we doing? Enable innovation and digital transformation by how will we do it? Enabling a thriving community to develop secure AI-driven solutions that improve productivity and deliver increased business value. Another example, drive continuous improvement, leveraging AI and automation to foster a culture of innovation and improve processes. Now, this is part of an overall strategy, right? Having a vision does not mean your organization needs it, but that gives your organization, as you communicate it out, the permission and the structure to start adopting this. But the real work of creating a vision is aligning those around you on that vision. right? So the discussion happens, and it's good to have this discussion with your team. But you do have to remember, right? You're deep in this technology through events like this and the work you do. For the people around you that you're leading, this is new and it doesn't have a map. And that scares most people, right? You are leading them not to the mountain we're on right now, but to this one way off in the distance, and it's not a point-to-point journey. So when you go back to work, remember, you are the narrator for your organization's AI story. Your words matter. You're going to interpret the tasks, the events along the way. And that's not easy. There was a study of 400 leaders and their teams, and they looked at the gap between what leaders thought of their own capabilities and what their teams thought of their boss. And of all of these leadership attributes, two stood out that had the biggest gap between what the leader thought of their own ability and what their teams thought. And those two are vision and empowering. These leaders thought they were really skilled in this. Their teams were like, yeah, boss, not so much. Conveying a vision to break the inertia of your organization doesn't just feel hard, right? This is hard. And that's why your ability to communicate a vision to your team and your organization and celebrate each stage is so important. You're going to feel like you've done it 100 times. You're going to feel like you've done it 1,000 times, or you will get tired of talking about this. This picture here is actually of my other daughter, Emily. Some of you are thinking, didn't he call her Rebecca at the beginning when she was floating in a boat? They're identical twins. They both study geology. They're both getting PhDs. There's a whole nature versus nurture discussion, which is out of the scope of our conversation today, but it's interesting. Emily recently got an internship, right, with an environmental consulting company. And so with that comes Outlook and Excel and PowerPoint and all the tools of the trade. And around the dinner table, we talk about our days, we talk about our jobs. I talk about Power Platform, of course, because that's my day. My family could probably get certified by just what we've all talked about at the dinner table. So Emily comes home, right, from her internship, new access to Outlook and Excel and PowerPoint and all the stuff we use every day. And Emily says, Dad, have you ever heard of Microsoft Automate? Huh? I asked Emily the question that you're probably asking yourself. Emily, do you mean Power Automate? She's like, yes. I'm like, yeah. Emily, I have heard of Power Automate. Yeah. Right. No matter how many times you have shared your vision with your organization, I promise they don't understand it as well as you do. And so as your vision gets understood with your team, as you make progress on this journey, the next question you get will be about value. Right? Despite this talk of becoming more human, for our businesses, all of this comes down to hard value. Right? Not just the value Microsoft gets, but your value. And so I wanted to close with this. Some of our thinking and tooling to measure value of Power Platform and AI in your organization. And let's start with an example, a real example. This was a government customer we had, and they had a very common process, a vehicle check. They had a fleet of vehicles. In the morning, the driver would come out, take one of these forms, fill out half of it. When they finished their route, their day, they'd fill out the bottom half. They'd trudge in 10 hours later, muddy, wet, and drop it in a box. So my question for you, and we'll vote in chat, how about, consider at the end of every day, what percentage of routes successfully completed their form and turned them in. And so what I'll do is I'll just put these options here in chat, and you can vote with your thumbs. But after all, we have, decades of IT experience. What percentage of these were submitted? I'll give you a second to vote. Greg went right for 0 to 35 without the options yet. All right. Don't forget the one up top, 65 to 100. No one's voting on that one? Pessimist. All right. So most people have chose this last option. 1/3 or less, right? About 1/3. All right. So remember your answer. No fair changing your answer. For this organization, the actual result was, they don't know. They have no idea. They never looked at all the forms. They looked at them one by one, but they couldn't do anything with this data. But they did automate this, which if you've looked at building an app with Copilot, it's pretty trivial now. They save 2 to 3 minutes per check. Times 1,000 vehicles, the number of trips and all that's about $500,000. And this is the way most customers, most organizations that do measure value, most of them don't. But those that do, this is how they look at it, right? Okay, can I shave off a few minutes here or there? But let's be real. We're not going to shave 2 or 3 minutes off of each driver's route every day. It's not realistic. And as you saw, those forms weren't adding value. And so there's other ways of looking at value. Microsoft has a whole team on this business value assessment, and this is the process they use. Tangible value and intangible value, right? Tangible value like hard savings, saving logistics costs and materials. Intangible value, softer savings, right? Like environmental sustainability, diversity, inclusion, risk avoidance. And then money coming in, money going out. And so applying this model to the same situation, on the intangible but benefit side, improved employee experience. Seems soft, but at Procter & Gamble, they will build apps only for this reason. They say if they improve the employee's experience, that raises the standard to what they'll give their customers. They're confident of it. Reduce maintenance costs. Now they can use this data. They can track trends. They can do preventative maintenance. And so that means there are fewer unsafe vehicles on the road. Right? Lower risk. Risk is a hard thing to measure monetarily sometimes, but lower risk. But it also has a customer impact. Fewer customer disruptions. Right? Not having to call up a customer and say, sorry, we can't get to you today because I got a driver standing by the side of the freeway next to a broken truck. Right? Missed revenue because of that. And so really, the value to them was much more than just 2 to 3 minute savings, right? They have a better view of their fleet, has a more meaningful impact on their entire business. Now, we also do a workshop where we talk about this, but we realize that the entire organization needs to be trained on value, right? This is one of those transformational things. And so we've created an AI-based power app to help scale this throughout all of our organizations. It can take an idea or a list of apps, as you saw there in the front, and it just asks the maker this 5-point storytelling framework, plain language. What was the problem? How did you solve it? What challenges did you face? What's your value? Just in your gut. What is the value in your gut for this? And what do you see coming next? And then we use generative AI here to write a story. You'll see the story here in a second. But it may seem unusual. Weren't we talking about value a second ago? Why are we writing a story? Value is only meaningful when it's communicated out to the right people. Right? I work for a publicly traded company. The CFO does email us how we're doing, but then she goes off and talks to the media, talks to the press, right? Communicating value out to the right stakeholders in the right way is a critical part of measuring value. So we tell stories. And the maker can then review that, and the tool will publish that out in draft to a SharePoint. We have customers that have been using Power Platform for years, had 2 stories. Months later, they've got 30. That's how you break inertia on your AI journey, right? As you tell stories about success and you make it easy to get them out of there. But of course, we're talking about value, right? So we're not stopping at stories. We then take what we learn from those apps and we use AI to align them to your organization's objectives, right? Corporate or division objectives. Foster a safe and healthy work environment. Foster high employee engagement and collaboration, so on. The AI rates on a 5-point scale, how well is this app aligned and impacting that objective? It even generates a short summary on its thinking. The maker can go through and they can tick agree on each one of these, so we get the human assessing the AI's logic. But eventually you can build a report then. For every one of your corporate objectives, how does this app support it? For every app, here's how it aligns to our strategy. And then once we have that, we can get to the tangible side of value measurement. And we use AI to walk them through, okay, how to measure the value before implementation on a number of metrics. And then after implementation, we can come back and track these over time. And then we have a reference values for invoice processing, cost of a diverted call, that sort of thing, so that this person can easily turn it into a real hard dollar figure. Right, so taking you down from just having an idea to really understanding how to measure the value of it, which is actually a really difficult task, makes it much, much easier. And then at the end, it generates what we call value cards. these value cards, which have a AI generated sentence, but also then summarizes the real impact of that app. And then those get injected back in the story. So now you've got the story, but also a measure of the value. And so I'll close there with some of the links. I can put these in the chat. I wanted to close with value because like you have spent your time on this call because you are making a meaningful investment in Power Platform. And remember, I am from engineering, not sales. So I'm not talking about licensing when I say that, right? The investment of breaking the inertia of your organization, of skilling your people and finding opportunities to maximize automation and AI and helping your team thrive. That is a much bigger investment than anything you'll spend on licensing. And it's where all of the value lies. And I hope that like, as we all do this, we will find the potential to automate all of our work, but also become more human, right? Free up that time to do what was impossible before, right? To create space and connect with our teams and others in our organization, and to build business by doing that. And what would do it, bringing our teams and our customers and our families and this community along with us. So thanks for having me here today. Really enjoyed it.
But yes, let's take the time. Would love for those attendees, feel free to come off mute. If you've got questions for Phil, if you'd like to learn more of what he's sharing today, let's use our time wisely with Phil. We've got him cornered for probably another 10 minutes at least.
Yeah. Tate's got his hand up. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll shoot one out to you. So that was all very interesting, just like what Gregory said, very fascinating. I'm curious right now with the safety of LLMs and where you think we are today and where we will be in maybe a year from now. Top of mind for me are like the easy ways of just asking the LLM to avoid its guardrails. And then the more recent, like Bert Lambert Stinger approach. I don't know if you're familiar with that one that came out recently, but if you could talk on those, maybe from an engineering background, or where you think safety is going.
Yeah, well, so we have a workshop that where we talk about, we actually run through scenarios on things you need to check and having a responsible AI checkpoint, all kind of the process side of deploying that. But also if you look in like Copilot Studio, right, you have the ability to control whether it's grounded only on its own data or it uses the large language model, right? And so you have controls, like at least in what we're building, to avoid some of those things, or at least help prevent them, right? And kind of the safety controls. And so it's very important to be aware of what you're doing, right? That checkbox can open it up to a whole new world of things that you may not want, depending on the type of data you're dealing with. I'm not even going to try to predict where we'll be a year from now.
Kind of a follow-on question from Tate's. The Power Platform team has put out some great tools like the CoE toolkit, and I praise the CoE toolkit. Do you think you guys will come out with some sort of toolkit that helps put some more visibility or guardrails around the use of AI or Copilot Studio? I mean, maybe that's already built in to Copilot Studio, but we'd just love your thoughts on that.
We recently launched an AI toolkit, which is more about prompting and evaluating prompts and getting coached on prompting. I think there's a video that went out on that today, in fact. And so that's recently out there. As far as the guardrails and all that, you will see those go into the CoE toolkit if they're not in the product. But I think you're going to see a lot of that come into the product just because it is such a focus for successful adoption of AI.
That's great. Anybody else with questions? Mr. Brandt?
Hey, Brad.
Hey. So the resources you see here, do you have to be a big corporate customer to get access to these, or are these available for the little mom and pop 2-bit, people that want to just figure out what's going on?
Everything here is not the big. It does not require you to be a big company. Everything here is available to anyone on this call. So please take advantage of it. For Power Up, I will tell you the Power Up right now, our 7-week curriculum is Power Platform focused, then has AI Builder and Copilot Studio. We are in the process, probably in the next couple months, of doing 2 tracks. And so we'll have a Copilot and AI track, and we'll have a Power Platform track. We're working on that right now. So watch that space if that's something you're interested in.
So is that program, is that like online? Like, can anybody like sign up?
Yeah,
here, let me just throw it in there.
Tens of thousands. I can copy all these in too here. And
okay.
Here I've got the. Oh, maybe I can't. Yeah, I can.
Okay,
yeah, maybe you've got an email. Yeah. Yeah, so anybody can
Yeah,
join
and
that. We've got people from all around the world. It's a global community. We've got, and then we do, like I mentioned, live Q&A sessions, right? So you've got that human support. We do that across time zones as well. So definitely, please take advantage of that. The enterprise mode, the way it works is you use our curriculum and platform, and then you provide the community underneath it. And we have a way to kind of help build that as well.
that is awesome. Is this going to be your guys' first cohort, or have there been cohorts?
Oh, we've been doing
kinda
this
going through
for 3 years, 2.5, 3 years.
that? Oh yes, I
Tens
remember
of
that from
thousands of
3
people
years
have been
ago.
through here. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was like a wait list for almost like 6 months or something when it first released.
It got out to a little bit of a start. Yeah. And they were
Yeah,
honestly overwhelmed by the response.
of
Now we're
course.
doing monthly cohorts and talking about even trying to speed that up as well. There's been and the curriculum has changed. My wife was actually in the first or second cohort. The curriculum has changed. We use the school library scenario, so a real world scenario, but that most people can relate to, and it kind of progresses through all the tools.
Awesome.
So follow-up question on the Power Up. Does it include free environment for people to go in and
Yes.
do learning, or do they need to be part of it? So it includes, so you're nodding your head.
So if you're individuals, you work on our tenant, you get use of a tenant and licensing and the appropriate credits and all that while you're working. For the enterprise mode, we've got a way where you can use our tenant for a while, but ultimately the enterprise is going to run their own cohort. We want it in your tenant, right? So it has longevity and all that. So we can kind of ramp onto that. But yeah, for individuals, yeah, we provide everything.
Okay. Last question on that. Is there a way to get an idea of what the syllabus is, how they're covering the material without enrolling in the course, or do you really have to jump in head first to learn what's going on inside?
I don't know. It's my team too. I don't know, but I will find out. If you want to email me, I can get you the syllabus and share it with the community.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Happy to. Yeah.
We'll share the links, the syllabus. I'll put it out to the whole Power Platform community listserv.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Have a good night.
Thank you
Thank
again.
you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.